Welcome to Michelle's Opinions. Today we're going to talk about JFK, fact or fiction. I'm going to go through a story with you, and I hope you can all follow along, and maybe we can get a better understanding of how timelines, time loops, resets, and things like that come about. I'm going to show you, which will also show this phenomena in a clip that I have found of his 10 greatest speeches. And if you have a keen eye, you'll see that it flips back and forth, and it almost seems like we're looking at two different time frames or perspectives of time. So let's get to it. Here we have the bio of John F. Kennedy, 35th President of the United States. John Fitzgerald, or Jack Kennedy, commonly referred to us by his initials JFK, was an American politician and journalist who served as the 35th President of the United States from January 1961 till he was assassinated in November 1963. He served at the height of the Cold War, and the majority of his presidency dealt with managing relations with the Soviet Union. Now we're going to look at his 10 most prominent speeches. And I really want you to take a keen eye as you are watching these, as for the background, what it looks like to you, when does it look like it was taken, and things of that nature. Because we're going to talk about the time loops and time jumps and time resets.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
I pledge you that we shall neither commit nor provoke aggression, that we shall neither flee nor invoke the threat of force, that we shall never negotiate out of fear, and we shall never fear to negotiate. Terror is not a new weapon. Throughout history, it has been used by those who could not prevail either by persuasion or example. But inevitably they fail, either because men are not afraid to die for a life worth living, or because the terrorists themselves came to realize that free men cannot be frightened by threats, and that aggression would meet its own response. And it is in the light of that history that every nation today should know, be he friend or foe, that the United States has both the will and the weapons to join free men in standing up to their responsibilities.
All free men, wherever they may live, are citizens of Berlin. And therefore, as a free man, I take pride in the words, Ich bin ein Berliner.
The path we have chosen for the present is full of hazards, as all paths are. But it is the one most consistent with our character and courage as a nation and our commitments around the world. The cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
I believe in an America
where the separation of church and state is absolute, where no Catholic prelate would tell the president, should he be Catholic, how to act, and no Protestant minister would tell his parishioners for whom to vote, where no church or church school is granted any public funds or political preference, and where no man is denied public office merely because his religion differs from the president who might appoint him or the people who might elect him. I have therefore chosen this time and place to discuss a topic on which ignorance too often abounds and the truth too rarely perceived, and that is the most important topic on earth: peace. What kind of a peace do I mean, and what kind of a peace do we seek? Not a Pax Americana enforced on the world by American weapons of war, not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I am talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope and build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
We are confronted primarily with a moral issue. It is as old as the Scriptures and is as clear as the American Constitution. The heart of the question is whether all Americans are to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities, whether we are going to treat our fellow Americans as we want to be treated. If an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch in a restaurant open to the public, if he cannot send his children to the best public school available, if he cannot vote for the public officials who represent him, if, in short, he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content to have the color of his skin changed and stand in his place? Who among us would then be content with the counsels of patience and delay? 100 years of delay have passed since President Lincoln freed the slaves, yet their heirs, their grandsons, are not fully free. They are not yet freed from the bonds of injustice. They are not yet freed from social and economic oppression. And this nation, for all its hopes and all its boasts, will not be fully free until all its citizens are free.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control.
Okay, now I'm going to go through a succession of the cars. And this is pretty interesting. I'm going to go through them pretty quick because I really want this to be a short post, but I want you guys to get the gist of it. As you can see on the plaque, it says 1961 Lincoln Kennedy car. Okay, that is the one that we're now seeing with the 6 people in the vehicle. Here is an image of the 1962 Lincoln, and here you see it's just 4 doors, 4-seater. This one has the jump racks, it looks like, for Secret Service, but this one looks more familiar to me of what happened on that dreadful day than the other. This one is in a museum. This is John F. Kennedy's 1962 Lincoln. As you can see, it's a 4-seater vehicle. Now, I don't see the jump racks on the back of this one, but I don't remember, clearly whether they were there or not during the actual incident. But look, it's a 4-door, 4-seater vehicle stating 1962. This one is actually in the museum, and it's the 1963 Lincoln, again showing it as a 4-door, open-top vehicle, which is what I remember it to be. This one is an image of the Beast, the 1968 Lincoln, where you can see here that there is that extra area now for the jump seats. It also shows a hard top. This does not look like a convertible, or that it can be transposed into a convertible. And last but not least, here we have the 1972 Lincoln limousine, the presidential limousine, where again we can see that it does have the space for the extra 2 seats, the jump seats, and I don't see where this can be turned into a convertible, but I do see 2 areas where we could have possibly sunroof, moonroof, pop-outs. So you guys decide what you think. Let's talk about timelines. Let's let our minds wander and just think for a moment that what if things were changed and done deliberately because something happened? This is where we say, is this fact or fiction? What if John F. Kennedy actually served a second term, and his assassination actually didn't take place till 1968, where that's where the footage is getting confused? What if he actually did open disclosure and everything fell apart? And what if, from the emotional outburst from the people who grieved and mourned, it petrified people. People were so brokenhearted and very emotionally drawn in to President John F. Kennedy that when the 1968 incident happened, it made a vacuum that had to be filled, and it had to be filled with 2 other incidents in order to keep harmony. So therefore, do a time reset, time loop, time jump, go back to before he did disclosure, have the assassination then, and then in 1968, we lost Malcolm X and Martin Luther King to offset that emotional vacuum that was created by that time loop, time jump. Just something to think about. Let me share some more images with you. Now let's take a look at Martin Luther King Jr.'s bio. His minister. Martin Luther King Jr. was an American Baptist minister and activist who became the most visible spokesman and leader in the civil rights movement from 1954 till he was assassinated in 1968. Born in Atlanta, King was best known for advancing civil rights through nonviolence and civil disobedience tactics. His Christian beliefs and the nonviolent activists. So he knew that there was a way to achieve the goal without using violence to progress his cause. I hope you enjoyed this short clip of the I Have a Dream.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
And the third great man that I want to bring up from this decade is Malcolm X, who is also a minister. Malcolm X was an American Muslim minister and human rights activist. Some saw him as a courageous advocate for the rights of blacks, a man who indicted white America in the harshest terms for its crimes against black Americans. Others accused him of preaching racism and violence. He has been called one of the greatest and most influential African, I'm assuming that's American. He lived from May 19th, 1925 to February 21st, 1965. I do believe there was a major transition with Malcolm X when he went on what they would call the Hajj, where they make their trip to Mecca, and he saw the equality and the peace that could be there between white, black, orange, purple, green, that all are equal. Now let me read some quotes from Malcolm X that are written down in history for us. In all our deeds, the proper value and respect for time determines success or failure. Another one is, I believe in the brotherhood of man, all men. I don't believe in brotherhood with anybody who doesn't want brotherhood with me. And the third but not last, we do not condemn the preachers as an individual, but we condemn what they teach. We urge the preachers to teach truth and to teach our, and then it kind of dots off on that. If you're interested in that, go to the wiki page and you can look further into the quotes of all three of these men are just absolutely wonderful. Now, to finish this up, I want to tell a short story about timelines, time jumps, and time resets. If there was a huge collapse in society, there's a good possibility that in our collective consciousness, we did what would be called a time reset. And at this time, it seems like things are being revealed to us for in the true way that actually events happened. Maybe the timelines are collapsing down on top of one another to make one final timeline instead of all of these different directions, bringing us back into the oneness. But it is interesting if we think about the differences in the cars and how we all remember this in such a similar fashion. Most, if not all, remember the four-seater car. We remember that the film that was taken was not so graphic and also was in black and white. And that was one of the things I wanted you to notice throughout this entire presentation, was that some was in color, some was in black and white, some he looked older, some he looked younger, and so many different anomalies that are coming into fruition that there is a great possibility that we did do a time reset. We lost 3 great men fighting for the cause of peace and equality within 1 decade. And with JFK, it shocked the world. So I don't know how they switched each and of these up, but I know that it could have possibly caused a vacuum, because emotion is energetic exchange, and it would have to be buffered out some way or another by just trying to use logic. So did they switch around when these different assassinations took place? Did society break down because either Martin Luther King or Malcolm X was assassinated and there was complete civil unrest within our country? I don't know these things yet, but it is interesting that we are now seeing that the vehicle that they're showing us now was not even made at the time that they're saying that the assassination on JFK even happened. I just wanted you guys to think about it and take into account how time works. And we do know that it's constantly the present. But all 3 of these men lost their lives for a good and noble cause. And we are all better today for it. There is more equality, and we are working our way towards that more and more daily. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Michelle's Opinions, and always share what you know so we can listen and grow. I will talk to y'all soon.